Let's take a deeper look at the character panel. Before I even began here, I switched from the Essentials workspace to the Typography workspace. And you could see your character panel. And you'll notice I've typed, "How hungry are you?" But it's in the default 12-point size, so it's very difficult to see. Even on your Move tool, I can use my scrubby sliders to slide that up, or simply double-click in the middle of the number and type 42 and press Return or Enter. Try this at home. Sometimes if you ask your iPhone what is the meaning of life, it will give you the answer 42. But it has other comical answers built in as well. So I like sticking with the size 42 for this message text that will pop up over and over again. There's only one line, so I don't need to worry about leading. Leading technically means line spacing. And if you're curious, it came from the days of metal type, where they would actually put a piece of lead in between the lines of type for line spacing. Here I have kerning. Kerning is a space between two characters, meaning if I go to my Type tool and click in between the H and the O in How Hungry, I can tighten this by choosing a negative number, and they got very close, or loosen it by choosing a positive number. However, I'm going to triple click to select the entire line, and I always prefer optical kerning. Optical kerning does individual kerning adjustments to make every letter space look even. I love this. It's Adobe's own technology that goes above and beyond the kerning pairs built by the font vendor, if any, to make each letter space look more proportional and to make your text more readable. Here I have tracking. Tracking is applied to anything that's highlighted. So if you are here, you would be kerning. If I drag to highlight, that's technically tracking. If I triple click to select the whole line, I can use scrubby sliders to track or spread out that text, or simply double click and go back to 0 or select 0. Now sometimes with the typeface, I want to fake the look of condensed. My Font Myriad Pro does have a condensed version built in, but if it did not, if I was on regular, you can actually apply a vertical scale or horizontal scale. So I will double click on horizontal scale and type 90, and you get the appearance of condensed, although not truly a condensed font. I set it back to 100 and pressed Return or Enter. And to move my type, I do not need to switch to the Move tool. I could simply get anywhere outside the text and move it. To show you baseline shift, I'm going to make the word U squared. So I'll add the number 2. I will highlight it just by dragging, and I will make it superscript. When doing superscript, you may decide that you'd like to shift that up or down on the line, and often I prefer clicking right in the number and using my up arrow key on my keyboard or my down arrow key on my keyboard to shift it. In fact, I'll zoom in with Command plus or Control plus so you could see that. Up arrow and down arrow. So that is baseline shift. It'll push that character up or down on the line. Now I'm going to delete that just by pressing my Delete or Backspace key. And often people ask me what ligatures are. If I type the word office, that's a ligature, where the two F's and the I run together. Typographically, that's pleasing. If I double click, I can actually turn ligatures off. And when I deselect standard ligatures in the character panel, the F's are independent and the I is dotted. If I turn standard ligatures back on, there's no dot on the I and the F's run together. Depending on your font and the selected character, other options here may light up. But for now, that's all I'm going to do. I will type, however, 1/2 to show fractions. So if I type 1/2 and click on fractions, it automatically converts that character so that it fits neatly on the line and looks like a fraction. I could even do something like 5/32, Once the fraction is on, it stays on for any numbers that you type. I'm going to delete all of that, and the last thing I will do to position this in my mockup is a little trick I've developed. If I go to my Move tool, I will use Edit Free Transform. Free Transform will allow me to mathematically position this because in a mobile mockup I will always want the same X and Y starting position for message text when it's asking one question at a time. So if I click at the upper left corner as starting point, I will always do, in this case, 50 pixels from the left for the X value. I'll hit Tab to jump to Y and type 650 for Y, and then hit Return or Enter. That way, if I'm ready to do another question as part of my mockup, I can drag this layer, How Hungry Are You, down to the new layer icon. Now nothing is happening because you have to remember to press Return or Enter, and often I leave these in the recording so that you can see it will happen to you, and this is how you fix it. I haven't committed to my transform, so a double click on the inside will commit to it, or Return or Enter will commit to it. Now I can drag that layer over the new layer icon to duplicate it in the exact same spot. Click this eye icon to hide the text underneath. Go to my Type tool, and I will triple click on this line of type and ask, are you craving comfort food? And I know that this text is in the exact same spot as the previous. I could confirm that by going to my Move tool, choosing Edit Free Transform, and clicking the upper left corner to see my 50 and 650. Finally, to make sure that I haven't spelled anything incorrectly, I'm going to press Return or Enter to accept the free transform. I'll go to my Type tool and click inside the type and choose Edit Check Spelling. The web is littered with typos because so many people forget to run a spell check on even the simplest block of text. I might leave out the F in comfort and not be able to read it myself because I know what it's supposed to say. So I will click OK. And the last thing I want to mention to you is that if you do foreign language publications, you can set the spell check dictionary to something else. If you're in Canada and you spell color with a U and check with a Q, then set your dictionary to Canadian so that those words aren't flagged as incorrect using the USA English Dictionary. So take some time to experiment with the buttons on the character panel and get yourself nice and comfortable with setting type in Photoshop.